watch this video until the end because I'm going to show you the exact marketing method that you're going to use to scale to 100K plus months. My name's Steven. I help remodelers scale their businesses by running paid ads. If that's something you're interested in, click the link in the description. But today we're not here to talk about Facebook ads. We're here to talk about the best way to get jobs for remodeling. So here's the first thing you have to understand is sensitivity to initial condition. This is a scientific method, okay? This is in scientific theory, a small change that can create a completely different outcome over time. So basically, say you have a plane. This is my drawing here. And I know you've heard this before, but when you take a plane and you change the trajectory of where it's heading by just a couple of inches, as you can see there, they land in completely different spots, okay? And here's the thing. This is not just scientific theory, but this also applies to everything in life, right? So this applies to relationships, to business, to wealth, to anything you can think of, right? You go in the gym, you train wrong in the gym, you're going to have a wrong looking physique, or your physique's not going to look the way you want it to look. You get into a relationship, you build that relationship the wrong way, and it changes the trajectory of your life, right? You can live in one location, move to another location, change the trajectory of your life. And the same thing is in business, right? Now, one of the main things that I want to talk about here is your beliefs, okay? Your beliefs are convictions of truth with or without proof. So we have beliefs based off of the initial condition that we've had in our life that things are the way that they are, regardless of what you've seen, of the new experiences, right? And this is sensitivity to initial condition, right? So, for example, you might have grown up and thought, I have to save all my money, right? That's what your parents said. Your parents, they cut out coupons in the kitchens and bought them over to Kroger. You used to sit in the grocery line and you would like kind of have a little bit of anxiety because you'd see that everyone behind you was ready to check out, but your parents were giving out all the coupons because they were trying to save as much money as possible on groceries. Okay, that can be an initial condition. That can be a belief that you've held your entire life that has kept you where you are. So, and again, this is all going to relate back to the best marketing method. But I want to make this clear right off the bat. You might have this, okay, I have to save money. I have to collect coupons. I have to make sure the water bill is not too high and turn off all the lights, because in your mind, you might think, well, money is a scarce resource, and so I have to save it. I have to preserve it, okay? And that's just one of many different beliefs that got you to where you are today, right? Here's the thing, okay? You're conditioned to believe things off of initial condition, how we've discussed, but also everything that you've been told is wrong. And you already know this, right? You already know that everything you've been told is wrong. If you're running a remodeling business or any form of business at all, that's not a normal thing to do. Like nobody just wakes up and says, I'm going to start a business. Like you started to look around the world and you were like, okay, there's definitely got to be a better way to do this. There's a way that I can succeed outside of the regular 9-to-5 arena. And so that's what you thought, right? And so here's the problem with these initial beliefs that you have. Say we're talking about how I mentioned before, money's a scarce resource. You can only operate under the condition that that belief is satisfied, okay? So, for example, right here I have this graph, and you can see this line right here is your belief. And that could be, for example, money is a scarce resource. And so you will operate, this y-axis is success, this x-axis is time. You will operate over time under that belief. So for example, I might think money's a scarce resource. So now I have a situation where my friends call me up and they say, hey bro, come out to dinner. It's my birthday. We're going to go have a good time. Now, if I don't have that much money, I could say, well, you know what? I can't do it. I can't go. And the reason behind it is, well, I know if I go to this thing, I might spend $150 and that's going to be a lot of money and I don't want to do that. So now you've lost an experience, you have operated under that limiting belief. Now, this is for obviously something recreational, but let's go to something else, right? You run, say you make cold calls, right? You make cold calls. And at some point, you get tired, and you're like, well, this isn't going to work for me. That's a limiting belief. And so you're always going to be able to operate under the excuse that your business is not going to work, or cold calling is not going to work for your business because you've ingrained that belief into yourself. And again, that's with or without proof. And it's a to what extent as far as proof goes. So it's not even like full on fucking proof. It could be like you make 10 calls. And I'll tell you a story with myself. My first time ever sitting down, I think this is like in the first week of my agency, I sat down to make cold calls. I remember I like rehearsed my lines in front of the mirror to myself for over an hour. And I finally sat down to do the cold calls, and like the third or fourth guy that got on the phone with me, he was just an absolute dick. Like this guy was like, fuck you. I don't believe in this agency shit. You're full of shit. You're just a scammer, just like everybody else. And I got off that phone call and like, seriously, like I almost cried. You know, I mean, think about this. I'm like 20-year-old kid. I just had like the biggest trauma happen in my life, obviously, because that's why I like started the agency. I think a lot of people get into business for that reason. They have something bad happen and then they decide to go into business of some sort. So I just had like a really traumatic fucking experience. And then I was like, I'm going to make a change in my life and do something great. And this guy hopped on the phone with me and he just cusses me out for like 10 minutes and then hangs up the phone. Now, I could have in that moment said, okay, this is never going to work for me and then quit. But no, I've made 30,000 cold calls since then and I've seen some results from it. So you know that everything that you've been taught is wrong, and you already know that. Like innately, like to some degree, you have to know that getting that 9-to-5 life, getting a house, getting married, having kids, going to college, all that shit, to some degree, there's got to be something flawed in it, okay? And you already know that. We've talked about this. You already know this stuff, okay? Here's the thing. You have to break these beliefs to win. You have to. And the same thing with the cold calling. I wrote this little saturated thing here. I had a buddy of mine in college. I remember this was like probably about 2 months before I started my agency, dropped out of school. My buddy and I were sitting there eating lunch, and he looked at me, or I told him, I said, hey, man, I think I'm going to start a marketing agency. And he said, oh, don't do that. He actually ran a contracting company too. He was just still in school because he wanted to finish it up, but he ran a contracting company, and he said, hey, man, marketing's oversaturated, so you shouldn't run a marketing agency. Everyone and their grandma has a marketing agency. I get calls all the time. Every girl I talk to from the school wants to start a marketing agency, okay? And so in that moment, I could have said, all right, marketing agency is a saturated niche, therefore I'm not going to do it. And then never would I ever be standing here right now delivering this value, talking about this content, having the life that I live now, the opportunity and the honestly fortune that the Lord has given me of the life that I have because I decided not to accept that statement from my friend. So remember how we were talking about initial condition, right? A small change that can create completely different outcomes over time. This is what happens, and this is where a lot of companies go wrong. We try all sorts of different things. We do all sorts of different things, and this is based off beliefs. This is based off what other people say. This is based off of what you've heard, all sorts of shit. It could be anything, okay? And you're going all over the place, and you're changing direction, you're changing course, and then all of a sudden you land somewhere, bumfuck nowhere, you don't even know where you are, right down here, and this was your original target up here, right? If the plane changes courses, who knows where it's going to land? And so it's on your job to find your method, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. There is no one perfect marketing method. There's one that works for you, and you have to find that. And that's what we're going over in this video. All right? So let's talk about the cycle of the dying business. All right? This is usually what it looks like, and I'm sure you've probably been here before too. You try word of mouth. You get a couple jobs, whatever, that's great. Then you try to go to Instagram posts. You post a couple things on Instagram. Maybe you have someone hit you up, but then they don't text you back after. So then you try to go work with a marketing agency, and then you work with the marketing agency, and they build you your website, and then it takes them 6 months to build a website, and then $6,000 later, you have a shitty website, and you don't have any jobs. And then you try to go to door knocking, and then you hire a bunch of sales guys to do door knocking, and then you're like, well, these sales guys don't know what they're doing, so I'm just going to go ahead and fire them, and I'm going to go try something else. And so then maybe you switch to Angie's, and so you try Angie's out or Thumbtack, and maybe you get a job or two, but then you're in a bidding war with your competitors, and you don't know what's going on. And so then you're like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go back to Instagram posting. And so you post more stuff on Instagram. Do you see this cycle? This is what happens to 99% of businesses. And guess what happens? Once they have a bad experience, they just quit, okay? And the thing is, they'll have a bad experience with one thing. Most people do this. You have a bad experience with one thing, and then they say, okay, this shit doesn't work for me. All right, this doesn't work. This is like, imagine you go fishing, right? So you're out fishing with your buddies. You're having a good time, and you're out there for 8 hours. You don't catch a single fish. Imagine walking away from that and saying, okay, fishing doesn't work. I'm never going fishing again. It just doesn't work. It's not real. It sounds silly, right? It sounds silly. Like, obviously, if you put the fish or the bait in the water and you sit there long enough, you're going to catch a fish at some point, Okay, now it could be the location was bad, the hook was the bait was bad, maybe your cast was bad, maybe the weather was not ideal for that day for the fish to come out, right? It doesn't matter. There's all sorts of things that could affect that, but you don't walk away and say, "Oh, well, fishing just doesn't work. It's not real," right? That's crazy, and that's because when you have one bad experience, you should not quit, and that's what most people do. They quit as soon as they have a bad experience. They quit. They try like 4 different outreach methods. They tried 4 different marketing methods. The word of mouth, it starts to die down a little bit. The pipeline starts to run dry. You're not getting many jobs. And then all of a sudden it's just like, well, you know what? I'm just going to quit this. And then either go start a new business model or go work for another company. I've seen this happen time and time again, right? I've spoken to thousands of business owners about this. Thousands of business owners. The ones that don't work with me are the ones that do this. I see, like, everyone does this. I see people do this all the time. The guys that do this stuff, I end up calling them 6 months later and they say they're out of business and they started working with another company. This happens all the fucking time. This is why business is hard. Business is difficult, and you know that, right? You already know this. Business is fucking hard, and there's a reason for that. And so most people quit after one bad experience. Again, relationship. You have a relationship. You kiss a girl. You date a girl at 16, 17. She breaks your heart at 20 years old. Relationships aren't for me. You don't say that. You go find another girl, right? I guarantee if you're married, you've had this experience happen before. So you've never quit on a bad experience. Why? Because the need was there enough. You had this need to have another person in your life or whatever. I mean, you know what your needs are, right? Same thing happens here. You need to run the business. Why? Because you don't want to work for other people. You want to work for yourself. You want to make more money. You want to provide for your kids. You want to have financial freedom. You want to pay off your credit card debt. You want to, get back at all those people that doubted you in high school, right? But then you quit. So it's like you either don't want it bad enough or your belief structure is flawed. And that's what happens to most people, is that their belief structure is just flawed. And this happened to me too. I mean, shit, I have this conversation with my dad all the time. He thinks it's fucking crazy that I spend $3,000 a month on ads. And I'll tell you right now, like, even just a personal story. This month, I decided to start a new marketing campaign with a new offer. I built it out. I hired an actress to shoot my ads. Then I spent like $300 on an editor to edit like a 1-minute video. Posted it on Facebook, put like $1,000 behind it, and didn't get a single fucking job from it. Now, I've ran ads in the past for different offers, and I've gotten good results with them. I wanted to switch up my offer, so I know it works. And also it works for my clients, obviously. But I ran a shitty marketing campaign. I'm a marketer, and I fucked up a marketing campaign. I thought it was going to go really well. It didn't. Okay, so I could either quit now and say, okay, Facebook ads isn't going to work for me, or I can just change up my marketing method. And that's exactly what I did. And actually this morning I got on and I checked. My cost per lead went from $100 down to $20 with this new campaign that I just launched. And actually, guess what? This campaign was cheaper than the last one. I didn't hire an editor. I made a graphic post, and it worked very well. I also didn't hire another person to shoot my ad. But it only worked because I didn't give up. And that's how shit works. You can't quit. So now we're going to talk about how to fix this problem, how to fix it, and how to find your method. All right? Now, there are 4 different things you can do. That's it. There's 4 things you can do. I mean, there's like different variations of them, but basically you have cold outreach right here. That's door knocking, cold calling, cold emails, cold DMs, whatever. Then we have warm outreach. So you can reach out to your family and friends. You can reach out to past customers, that kind of stuff. Then we have organic content. So that's posting on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever. And then we have paid ads. So Facebook and Instagram ads, SEO, Google, and then you can do that with or without an agency. So you can either figure out how to do it on your own, or you can hire an agency to do it for you, right? This is how you make it work. You find what works for you. See this? Find what works for you. And you pick the one thing, and then you do that for a long time. And when you're choosing, you have to ask yourself, which is more important, time or money? And if we're being honest here, this is a little hint that I can give you. You should ask, what do rich people do? Right? Do rich people spend their time on shit, or do they spend their money on shit? Guess what? They all spend their money. Why? Because their time is more valuable than money. And so you can, and again, it might be different for you. Like in the beginning stages, I would definitely recommend doing a lot of door knocking, cold calling, maybe reaching out to friends and stuff like that. But as you grow to scale your business, even if you only have like $1,000 extra to spare, I would start trying to find paid methods like advertising to get your business to grow, right? Especially, here's the thing too. You can come up with an offer for, reaching out to your friends and family, which, by the way, if you don't know how to make an offer, I have plenty of videos on my channel where I talk about offer creation, so you can go figure that out. But the offer is the thing that gets people to bite. No one cares that you run a business. Everyone cares that you're going to give them something, or there's a good reason for them to sign up for your program, right? And so that's what you need to do. You need to come up with an offer, and you need to try it out. Well, when you try out the offer with door knocking, and you realize that the offer is working, you can then put that same offer on paid ads, and you get to where you're trying to go 10 times faster, right? Because you already see that the offer is working. And believe me, there's offers out there that will get people to bite so fucking hard, you'd be like, I can't even believe there's this many people signing up for my program, or getting a kitchen remodeled. So, time versus money. Pick the one that you have an abundance of right now. Usually it's time. Later it's money. Even if you don't have an abundance of it. If you believe you have abundance of it, remember, beliefs, initial condition, can change the trajectory, right? I have the money to spend on $3,000 a month on ads. Does it eat into my pockets? Sometimes I have to I can't go out with my friends. Yeah, sure. But you know what? I do that because it helps me bring in more jobs. And guess what? I bring in the jobs, and then I have the money to go out with my friends if I want to, or I can, invest in shit or whatever I want to do. Now, the next step, this is the most important step. This is very, very important right here. Testing. Always, always test. The amount of people that I've met who run ads or do door knocking or whatever that aren't testing is fucking insane. You should be testing everything. And more importantly, you should be collecting data. All right? Collect data. People don't collect data. You need to be asking, how much volume did you do? How many people were receptive? How many were qualified? How many booked? And you know what makes this easier? A CRM. If you're not familiar with what a CRM is a customer relationship manager. And with a customer relationship manager, you can track all of your customer data, so that way you know what's working, and then you can reiterate. I can go into my CRM right now and I can look. Okay, I had 50 people fill out my Facebook form this month, 15 of them booked, 2 of them closed. Okay, I have a decent conversion rate. This is working. This is how much it costs for me to acquire a customer. All right, well, say for example for me, say my customer acquisition cost is $1,000. That's kind of expensive for a marketing agency. So then I have to go look and say, okay, if I want to lower my customer acquisition cost, what do I have to change? And you can hypothesize based off of the data you've collected. But if you don't have any data, you don't even know what's working. It's like same thing with cold calling or door knocking. You should count every single door that you knock, every single time somebody opens, and then you can look at it and say, okay, well, we knocked 100 doors, 2 people opened. So we're either knocking in the wrong area or not knocking the right way. You have to figure that part out. And then you need to do more, better, and new. And you need to do that in that order. You see this right here? In that order. Okay? Do more. So if you decide you want to do door knocking, you have to do not 100 door knockings, not 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 door knocking. Same things with door hangers, right? People will put up 500 door hangers and say, oh, well, nobody bought my service. Well, no shit, nobody bought your service. I see this with yard signs too. Somebody will go buy 10 yard signs and they'll go put them up around neighborhoods and around like gyms and stuff like that. And it's like, yo, dude, 10 yard signs? And then it's like, I'm not getting any calls. Well, yeah, of course you're not getting any calls. You only put up 10 yard signs. You don't even know, like, you didn't even A to B test yard signs to see which one works better. You can put up 100 yard signs, and then from those 100 yard signs, you could have 50 be one thing and then 50 be another thing, just designed a little bit differently. You notice what yard signs, you track where you put every single one of them. If somebody signs up, you see, okay, most people are coming from this yard sign, so we're going to make more of those yard signs and get rid of the old yard signs. And then you A to B test with a new yard sign variation. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with running ads. Now, this is why running ads is so good, because you don't have to door knock and spend all this time doing stuff. You can just spend money to get eyeballs. With yard signs, you have to, hopefully people will drive by and see your thing. But with ads, you just spend $1,000 and 10,000 people see your thing. And if your offer is good enough, which you've tested because you're taking data, you can actually get really, really good results. You can find good clients. like that because you have a good offer. So you have a good offer, you put it online, bam, people are closing. Now, here's the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing you need to understand. If you catch yourself saying it won't work for me, you're doing two things. You're avoiding pain, right? So you're just simply saying, okay, well, I don't want to do this, right? Pain is the path. You have to understand, pain is the fucking path. And if you can't be in pain, if you can't accept that this shit's going to be hard, you're not going to make it very far. All right. Business is hard. I've had hard experiences in this business. Okay. When I didn't want to make cold calls, when I didn't want to spend money on ads, when I didn't want to call my leads, it's because I was avoiding pain. Because it's hard. It's fucking hard. Yeah, it's boring. It's brutal. That's how sales works. That's how marketing works. And then the other thing is you haven't done enough volume. It's very simple. You're like, I see this all the time. People are like, Facebook ads don't work for me. Okay, well, how much have you spent? Well, we were spending $10 a day. So you're telling me you spent $300 a month on ads and you're expecting it to change your life? Come on now. It's not going to do shit. $300 a month? Bro, my average client spends $3,000 a month. You are not going to beat my clients in your circle. You're just not going to fucking beat them because it's an auction. Facebook and Instagram ads is an auction. Facebook and Instagram will pick the best ads with the most spend behind it and show it to the most people. You're going to lose every single time. $300 ain't shit. And then you're like, oh, it doesn't work for me. And then we're back to here. But don't go back to here. Don't go back to the dying business cycle of, okay, well, I tried Facebook ads, didn't work, so I'm going to go to door knocking. No, pick one thing, reiterate it, collect data, and then figure out how it works. Really quickly, I just want to tell you before we wrap up the video, I want to tell you my story of how this happened to me. So I've been in business for 3.5 years now. I started out with cold calling, right? So I started with cold calling, and I said, you know what? This is going to be my thing. This is how it's going to work. This is what everyone online is telling me to do, make cold calls. I made cold calls for years, okay? Every single day, I would sit down in front of the computer and make cold calls. At first, I wasn't closing any jobs. After a while, I started to reiterate my script and change my script and make it better, right? I did more calls. So I went from making 10 calls a day to 20 calls to 50 calls to 100 calls. Then I did it better. I also found ways to automate the situation. So I got an automated dialer, and I bought lead lists, and so that way I wasn't scraping leads and doing all. I found ways to save time and do more of the outreach. I did it for a long time. I found that I was getting kind of decent leads. My biggest problem with door knocking is I didn't have any authority. You have no authority when you're cold calling because you're calling them. So I thought, I want authority. I want people to come to me. So then I decided to I hired 2 agencies. If you believe it, marketing agencies hire marketing agencies. So I hired an email company and I hired a Instagram DM company. That probably cost me about $6,000. I got like one job off of it and it really wasn't worth it. So I could have said, well, that shit doesn't work for me. But I just said, you know what? These agencies don't work. I'm going to try something else. It wasn't until one day, probably about 6 months ago, my buddy came to me and said, hey, bro, you should start spending money on ads. And I was like, I only have $300. He said, put $30 on it a day and see what happens. And so I did. And then I went on to close a client. And then I spent that money on ads. And then I went on to close the next client. And then I spent that money on ads. And I closed the next one, right? And it's crazy because even me, I had such a limiting belief that I've watched my clients make hundreds of thousands of dollars with Facebook ads. And I wasn't willing to spend money myself because I had the idea of money is a scarce resource and I need to save it. Even though my clients were spending that money on Facebook and they were getting results, I was watching with my own eyes. I still had this limiting belief. Change your beliefs, pick your path, and stick to it. That's what this is all about. Now, before we go, if you'd like to skip this entire process and just get the results for yourself, you can click the link in the description. I can help you find the best marketing method for you. Actually, my client Chris just recently called me and told me that he closed $150,000 worth of jobs in his first 45 days of working with us. Guys, I guaranteed he would get there in 90 days. He did it in 45 days. So half the time, right? We are scaling businesses. If you are a remodeler and you're trying to get extra jobs, the whole like find the offer, find what works, all that stuff. We have the offers, we have the templates, we have the ads, we have the CRM. Everything is ready to go for you. All you have to do is click that link in the description, book a call with me, and you can have the same results, if not better, than my client Chris. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a beautiful day.